Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Cricket 22 Nets Challenge. I'm going to give it a crack today. I've played a little bit throughout the week, but really want to give you guys my impressions of it and how I think some of the improvements. But again, it's really hard to judge because it is just the Nets session, and I'll speak about why. Oh my god, that was a cracking shot. Not going to lie. What a start from me. But anyway, I just wanted to get into this, and really for those who have never played one of these cricket games before, the main purpose of these net sessions is really just to get used to the controls for if there is any control changes. Mostly in this one, there's changes to the bowling, but for the batting, I guess it's just, good to get used to the timing, and if there is any slight variations in how it plays, you might get a little bit of a gauge from that while batting or anything like that, or seeing if there's a heap of swing from the bowlers or anything like that. It's very different to the actual in-game experience from the way that I have seen it in the past, where you play the net session, then you play the in-game, and they're very different experiences. So don't really judge the game too much from the nets, because it's generally not the best representation of how the game actually plays. So the batting controls are fairly similar if you've played any of the previous games. If you are using the arcade controls, which is the standard for this game, you use the face buttons to choose what you want your shot type to be, whether it's aggressive, defensive, precision, or a slog. And then you choose the direction of your shot using the minimap at the top right, which is the left stick. Now, there are these new bowling controls which allow you to sort of select on the pitch where you want your marker to go. And then once you've chosen that, you can use this aftertouch to sort of adjust your line a little bit, which, can be good or I guess bad, depending on if you don't want to change where the line of the ball is. But if you do stuff up, I guess, where your pitch marker is, then gives you a good chance to adjust it a little bit later on. For me, with pace bowling, I am a big fan of using the Pro controls, which is what I used in the previous game. And I'll get to that in a sec as to why that's a little bit confusing. Now, these controls, you pick your delivery here. You can see on the right-hand side of the screen, I can choose a delivery. And I can choose my length of full, short, good, Yorker. Your line, you actually don't choose until your release point, which can be a little bit confusing because you can adjust your aftertouch before you've actually released the ball. So if I'm pushing my aftertouch to the left and then I bowl the sort of left line, it's like a little bit more confusing as to where the ball's actually going to end up, because I don't know how much impact this has on where that delivery ends up going. So for me, using these controls, aftertouch is something that I'm going to completely ignore, because I know how to get the ball swinging in the right areas and where I'm used to releasing the ball using the right stick without adjusting anything on the aftertouch. Now, I know that's probably a little bit confusing, but for those who have played the previous games, just ignore it. I feel like ignoring aftertouch is a great idea, because it's only going to mess with your head when you try to pick which line to bowl. Now, when bowling spin in the previous game, I used these standard legacy controls, which I'm going to go through now. And I'm going to also go through why it might also be a terrible option to do now. The reason for that is, these are similar to the pace controls, but instead of using the release point instead of using the sticks to release, you actually use the face buttons to do your release point. Now, why I think these are arguably a terrible mechanism now, and it may just be a word here that's throwing me off, is the fact that it's giving me aftertouch straight away, when that should actually only be impacting the release of the ball and I guess the line of the ball. As in the previous game, it was just this is your release point, but now it's the release and the aftertouch. So it can be a little bit confusing, and that definitely is throwing me off. So I might need to use different controls, because I'm this point should actually just be the line that I'm bowling. That's what it should be. It should not be affecting too much else. It should be my line, and if I'm pushing down, maybe it's my length a little bit. But it's definitely something that is throwing me off based on where I want the ball to release. So I have tried like adjusting to the Pro controls, which is basically similar, where this one says that I'm releasing the line upon release, and there is no aftertouch using these controls for spin. So whether or not that's going to be an impactful thing, I don't know. But it's certainly, I guess, something that might need some wordings, some words adjusted to really make a little bit more sense for those using the standard controls, which personally I think are the better controls. I know you can probably do a little bit more with the Pro controls, but I think the standard ones are the best ones to play with. It's all about responsiveness, guys. That's really what it is. One thing that's new in Cricket 22 is you can actually turn on automatic appeals for edges and LBW, which you couldn't do in the previous games. Everything was manual. But I guess if you are like a rookie player to these games and you forget that you have to appeal, you can like miss out on wickets and things like that by not appealing edges or LBWs. So you can turn that on if you're really keen. But the other one is, I guess for new players, you can turn on your automatic bowling action, which means you only need to put in the release. And I'll show you how that works now, because if I select our new difficulty that I've just created here for bowling, so now in theory, I only need to do the release, right? Okay, so even though I've been able to create a new custom difficulty and put on automatic foot planning, I still have to jump, which is totally fine because it's early access and release and things like that. But don't put the setting in if I can't use it. I would like to try the setting. But essentially, that is Cricket 22's nets in a nutshell. There's, you know, a fair bit going on in it, but also not a lot at the same time. It's really more of an experience for you to try out the new controls or try out the controls that you've used in the past and find out what works best for you and give yourself the best chance, I guess, of going into the new game ready to roll once it eventually comes back around. I probably hit that straight back at the bowler then. So I will leave it there for now, guys. I probably won't cover too much more of the net stuff because there's probably unlikely to see any significant updates to it. But once we do get more info on Cricket 22, so make sure you do subscribe so you can see all of that stuff when it does drop. But until next time, I will see you guys later. And let me see if I can get a reverse sweep here for you. There we go. I'll see you guys later.